It's Chelsa Messenger with Picks and Parlays. We're talking AFC South football. Colts at Titans. We've got a midweek special for you guys. 50% off Scott Rickenbach's weekly pass. Scott's been our hottest handicapper on picksandparlays.net, so you don't want to miss it. The Titans are favored -1.5. The total is 49. Some trends to take a look at. The Colts 5-3 straight up, 4-4 against the number, and 4-4 to the over/under. The Titans are 6-2, 3-5 against the number, and the over has hit in 5 of their last 7. We've got Scott Rickenbach joining us to talk this Thursday night football matchup between these division rivals. Scott, what you got for us?
Yes, not only division rivals, but in this case, they're actually battling it out for first place. So a very big game here for sure. And one of the things you were talking about trending, not necessarily over-under trend here, but just mentioning something that did catch my eye when looking at this matchup is the losing team has scored 17 or less in each of the last 4 meetings. And in this game, you know that it's projected to be a tight game. The line's only 1.5 on this game. If that trending holds true and we see another game where the losing team only has 17 points and it's a tight win, we see this game falling short of the number. And that's what I'm looking at here is for a pretty hard-fought, tight battle and a low-scoring game as a result, lower than the projected total, at least on this game. And one of the things that caught my eye about this one is, if you look at Rivers' overall stats for the Colts, they don't look that bad, of course. But look at what he's done, and this happened again. He didn't have a good game, of course, against the Ravens last week, but against the 3 winning teams, the teams that currently have a winning record that the Colts have favored this year, that would be the Bears, the Ravens, and then also the Browns. In those 3 games, he's had 1 touchdown pass and 3 interceptions. So he's been mistake prone in the bigger games and hasn't been able to get his team in the end zone much. In fact, I think the Colts in those games, they were only averaging in those games 17.3 points per game against teams with a winning record. This is going to be a hard battle for them against Tennessee. The Titans, a pretty solid running game, pretty solid offense overall, but the Colts do, one thing I will give them credit for, they have our defense in the league. And I think the Titans will struggle to score points here. And I think it's been like 4 straight games where the Titans have scored 23 or 24 points or less. So they haven't actually been really lighting up the scoreboard of late. And I think this could be quite a tight battle between these two as they battle for first place in the division.
Right. Something as a Titans fan here in Nashville that I've experienced, the Colts have had a bit of dominance over the Titans as of late. They've won 7 of the last 10 meetings, covering in 6 of those. Colts are 14-3 straight up in the last 17 meetings, covering 13 of those meetings. Tennessee 1-7 straight up versus the Colts in the last 8 meetings at home. So why would I still like the Titans here? Well, if you think about the quarterbacks that the Titans have had during that span, it has not been pretty. It's been Blaine Gabbert, it's been Marcus Mariota, and the Colts had Andrew Luck. So I think this matchup is a bit different here. You've got the quarterback advantage, I think, that goes to the Titans with Ryan Tannehill, because the one time that the Titans did beat the Colts, they had Ryan Tannehill, and I like him here. I think the Colts are going to try to control the clock. They're going to try to run the ball, and they have done pretty well in that regard most of the season. And they're a good team overall. Their defense is really good. I think the Titans are going to struggle to run the ball, even though I think Derrick Henry obviously is a little bit different than most of the running backs in the league. But the Colts run defense ranks 3rd in the league versus the run. So it might be tough sledding for this Titans run offense. However, I think the explosive potential for this Titans offense is a little better than Phillip Rivers and the Colts. So I like the Titans here. Any other matchups that you're looking at? Because I'm looking at the key matchups for me is the Titans defense versus the run. The Colts have been pretty successful at running the ball. And then the Titans defense versus Phillip Rivers. Do you have any other matchups that you're looking at in this one?
I would say those are the key ones. And you mentioned as far as the Titans running attack, they're averaging over 140 yards per game this season. But again, going against a tough Colts defense. But at the same time, you want to take a little pressure off Tannehill. You want to establish the run. And like you said, the Colts are going to want to get their run game going and try to control the clock a little bit. They want to keep the ball out of Tannehill's hands. He has been, he's been a little bit streaky, but when he's on, he's really been on, and he could really shine under the lights in this one. But I think the Colts defense will have something to say about that. And the fact that they both teams trying to establish the ground game and run a little clock. Another reason I like the under here, Certainly couldn't argue, though, with you about that trend flipping and Tennessee getting the job done this time around.
I think if the Colts want to have a chance in this one, they're going to have to control the clock and keep the Titans' offense off the field because they are so explosive. But the only problem with that is sometimes the Titans' offense scores so fast that their defense has to get back on the field and it makes them a little tired. Other stat I'm looking at here, Phillip Rivers, obviously he's known to throw a few picks, and the Titans secondary has actually been pretty good. 9 interceptions this season, tied for second in the league. The Titans have not been good at getting pressure on the quarterback, but that is a bright spot for their defense that seems to be improving. What's your take on this Titans defense?
Oh, I like them in this matchup for sure. And like I mentioned earlier, Rivers, a ratio of 1-3, one TD and 3 interceptions against teams with a winning record this season. And like you said, this is a secondary that's been getting the job done with making creating turnovers. And so it could be some tough times for Rivers in this one. Again, even more reason they're going to just have to try to pound the ball on the ground a little bit and be safe with their passes too. Very short, secure passes, and should lead to a pretty tight battle here and a low scoring game.
And then one final note, I'm interested to see if this line moves any because we saw last week's matchup with the Colts and the Ravens. That line moved so much that it made me a little nervous to have the Ravens, but finally the Ravens did win. Do you expect any line movement on this one?
Well, you hit the nail on the head. It's an important thing for gamblers to keep in mind. I really like to watch that and see where the value ends up because, for instance, you know that you like the Titans already. If you start seeing that line go the other way, in my professional experience, what I'm saying is don't let that scare you. Be happy that now you're getting even more value with Tennessee. I mean, you want to look into it and see maybe if there was something that you didn't see that now has happened that's
Right.
causing that line move. But otherwise, if you're getting more value, that's one of the best tips I can give to people long term is I love having the better of the value. Doesn't always pay off, of course, but it tends to, over the long run, be a little more successful coming in and grabbing that extra value and going against the line move. So I'm definitely going to be watching this one close.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for our Thursday night football talk here on Picks and Parlays. As always, great stuff from Scott Rickenbach. Scott, thanks for joining us.